Hello, my name is Evan Mahalski. I'm the implementation manager here at Streamline AI, and this video is to walk you through a quick overview of our implementation process and what to expect when you're implementing Streamline. Let's get into it. On the screen here, I have a sample implementation plan, which you'll be provided when you roll out Streamline, and we'll fill it in with the dates that are relevant to your implementation. But I always like to say it essentially breaks down into a 4-week process, but it can be condensed into as little as 4 days or as long as you want. So it really depends on your situation, but the basic beats week by week break down to something like this. To get started in week 0, you're doing things and finishing out the sales process, confirming the initial use cases, what the success criteria of rolling out Streamline might look like for your team, working through a signed agreement. And once we have the signed agreement, that kicks off some automation where we'll spin up your Streamline AI environment, and that becomes available to you on day 1 when you become a customer. We'll schedule a kickoff call to meet with the various teams involved. So you'll meet our implementation team, and we want to meet your team that's going to be involved, especially the ones that are going to be more involved tactically in the implementation. That's usually about a 30-minute call. We'll give an overview, make sure we're aligned on the project goals before we kick off, and you'll get access to the organization and can start going in immediately to configure Streamline. From there, we'll usually schedule 2 calls, one for each of the following weeks, in which we'll have a series of deep dive configuration calls. For the first call, Streamline will drive, so you might be sharing your screen, but we'll take you on a tour through the application and teach you how to use all the administrative functions so you know how to edit your form processes and really hit the ground running. Now, if you already have a pretty good idea of the use cases you want to implement, or if you have examples that you have from an existing process, please share those with us in advance, and we can actually come to that first meeting with an already pretty good working skeleton of your implementation already queued up for you. So you'll leave that first call very empowered to make changes and make edits to the Streamline environment, and should already have a pretty functional version of your process. And then we usually like to schedule a second call about a week later where you can go through, get initial feedback, come with an initial list of questions. In the second call, customer usually drives, and it can be more of a Q&A and getting into the more tactical details of when this type of form comes in under these conditions, how do we make sure we route it to the right person? From there, after those 2 calls, you have a pretty functional version of the app, and we kick into sort of the second half of the implementation. So we can continue the cadence of the configuration calls as things come up, and we'll usually schedule a weekly call up until implementation, and then we make some changes a week or 2 following launch. But now in weeks 3 and 4, this is where other teams might start to get involved. So IT is needed to set up a couple of the integrations, and specifically the integration with your single sign-on. That's going to enable the end users to log into Streamline, and it's also going to push in all the users from your org so that they have access to the application. So we have some documentation we can send you at the start of the implementation. It's not needed right when we kick off, but just making sure that IT is in the loop and has enough time to implement. This is usually something they can do just from the documentation, but always good to give them a heads up. That's going to start the user enablement in Streamline. And since we already have a pretty good working version of the form starting from about week 2, you're really looking at your pre-launch testing and just making sure everything is buttoned up in the process. Most companies have the internal team that's in there and already testing Streamline. You might want to include some power users and your requesters who are going to be your most active users in the system. Get them used to the new process, get some feedback. We can still make ongoing changes to the processes from there. And then right around launch, we'll usually pair that with some kind of company announcement. Hey, here's the new way to submit legal requests. We have some documentation we can provide you that you can wield into your documentation there and make that very easy, especially for the requesters to know what to do in the new system. And then we have our go live. This is the system is active, processes are built out, and now you have live requests that are coming through Streamline. We can approach go live in a number of different ways. We can support an all-in-one model or a phased approach that might go team by team, depending on your preference and depending on how you like to work best. So all of it is open for discussion, and all of it is something that we can support very easily in the process. And then we move into the last phase, which is more of an ongoing support phase. So for the week or 2 following launch, we'll usually keep our meeting cadence, make sure everything's good, be responsive to any questions. And then when it makes sense, we'll switch over to more of a monthly cadence so you can know what's coming in Streamline. We can talk through any new use cases that comes up, and we can share all our knowledge that we learned from the other implementations. So all in all, very simple process. We'll walk you through every step of the way. So please let me know or your sales team if you have any questions and if there's anything we can do for you. Thanks so much for watching.